comparison with you and Nas, man. Everybody was talking about it. Now, why out of everybody you pick Nas, bro?
I didn't do it.
They asked him. They asked him a question.
You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like, I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment.
Jim Jones seriously messed with the wrong names. We're talking Nas and Pusha T, two lyrical giants who've been holding down the culture for decades. And Jim, he went full throttle, dissing both of them back to back like he had absolutely nothing left to protect. No caution, no respect, just pure chaos. And now his rap career is hanging on by a damn thread. This wasn't just some little jab. Nah, Jim crossed the line, like he was trying to set the whole building on fire. He had the audacity to say NAS was never that impactful, then turn around and call Pusha T overrated. Can you believe that? And to make it worse, he flexed like he's the reason NAS started going viral again. I made Nas go viral. Yeah, I really said that. And ever since, it's been a downward spiral that's getting uglier by the day, because from that moment on, it stopped feeling like regular rap beef. This ain't just bars. This feels personal, like the whole machine slowly pushed Jim out of the picture. That summer jam set slashed. That viral quote still haunts him like a bad decision you can't take back. And now whispers are spreading that Jim's being iced out by the same culture he helped build up. So now the streets are asking, was this just Jim's ego spiraling out of control? Or is this a quiet execution happening in real time? One thing's for sure, Pusha ain't done. And Nas, he hasn't even stepped in yet. That one sentence lit the match that sent Jim Jones straight into freefall.
My son can't tell you one Nas record. You heard? Like, let's keep it.
It wasn't just shade. It was a straight up eraser. Jim wasn't critiquing NASA's latest work or giving a hot take. He was dismissing the legacy of one of hip-hop's most respected, most legendary, and most genre-defining voices like it was nothing. Let's break this down, because it gets even more wild. He didn't say this on some random live or in a throwaway tweet. He said it loud and proud on the Joe and Jada podcast, a platform known for light laughs, casual convo, and unfiltered talk, not dropping bombs that set the internet on fire. And instead of checking himself, Jim went full throttle. He doubled down with his whole chest. Talking like he's been the one running the game, he really said NAS never meant much to the culture. Like, what? He tried to flex like his Billboard stats could go toe-to-toe with NAS's catalog. That's not confidence. That's a delusion. Let's be clear. Nas ain't just a rapper. He's a cornerstone of this entire culture. Illmatic is required listening in hip-hop history. Professors teach that album in college courses. Ether still gives veteran MCs cold sweats. And then he dropped King's Disease. Not one, not two, but 3 volumes, showing everybody that his pen is still sharp and he's still evolving. While Jim, he's out here talking like he just made The Chronic 2. 0. This wasn't just a bad opinion. It was straight insecurity wearing a mask. And the wildest part, Jim dragged his own kid into the mess. Like, seriously, what kind of example is that? Clout chasing at the expense of hip-hop legends and dragging your family into it. That's not it, Chief. The internet wasted zero time. Folks started going and, posting side-by-side comparisons like it was a rap history class.
But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like, you dig? Came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him.
Every NAS accolade got pulled out from Grammy wins to sold-out international tours, to plaques stacked to the ceiling. It was Stillmatic, but the Sun catalog speaks for itself, and the people made sure Jim didn't forget it. Meanwhile, Jim's chart history, let's just say it ain't hitting the same. This whole storm started because he felt the need to rewrite history with a hot take nobody asked for. And you'd think after getting dragged up and down the timeline, Jim would ease up, maybe drop a little apology, or at least stop fanning the flames. But nope. He pulled up to Nightcap, looked Shannon Sharp dead in the eye, and tripled down on the nonsense. He said Nas never had the influence people think he did, then took it further, said Nas was always in second place. Second to who? He said Jay-Z and DMX, like all three, weren't kings and completely different kingdoms. Nas was a reflective prophet, the one who made you think. Jay was the slick businessman, all about the bag and branding. DMX, he was raw emotion, pain, and unfiltered. Chaos, different lanes, different missions. But to say Nas never led the pack, that ain't just a hot take. That's full-on revisionist history. And here's the kicker. Jim doesn't even pretend he was never a fan. He straight up admits that back in the day, he looked up to Nas. Said he used to want to dress like him. That's the level of influence Nas had. Even his style shaped a generation.
Boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart. And Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody.
But now Jim's out here using a movie from 1998 as his one and only reason to discredit a man with 3 decades of cultural dominance. Like, bro, you can't erase a legacy just because you saw a belly caught. Feelings. This is where the delusion really kicks in, because now it's not about numbers, not about bar for bar skill, and definitely not about respect. Jim started talking like a man who's bitter that Nas will always be mentioned in rooms he can't even get into. It ain't about debate anymore. It's about positioning. Jim wants to be seen as one of the GOATs, but instead of earning it, he's trying to diminish the ones who already are. That's why this whole mess feels like one long tantrum wrapped in A. Podcast Mike Jim doesn't want NAS to be irrelevant. He wants Nas to be beneath him. But the truth, the numbers don't. Lie and the culture never forgot. And just when you thought Jim might fall back after all that backlash, nah, he turned up the crazy on Bag Fuel. He dropped one of the wildest quotes of this entire saga. He didn't just say NAS wasn't relevant. He didn't just say he was always second place. Let that sink in. Jim Jones really said he put NAS back on the map. Like NAS ever left? That comment had folks spinning. Twitter lit up. Instagram went into overdrive. And even YouTube reactors were like, yo, is Jim okay? The disrespect wasn't just wild. It was loud. And people weren't having it. This wasn't some industry newbie speaking out of pocket. This was a grown man with decades in the game trying to rewrite rap history on camera. And to make it worse, Jim said all this with 0 receipts. No proof, no examples, just vibes and ego. Meanwhile, Nas has been stacking Grammys, working with Hit Boy, and evolving his sound without even responding to Jim once.
As I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals will be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different...
It's the real flex. Nas has been ghosting the drama while still running laps around half the game. Every time Jim opened his mouth, Nas's name trended. But it wasn't because of Jim. It was because the people rushed to defend a legend. And with each wild take, Jim just kept exposing himself more. Now, here's where it really starts to sting. Jim didn't just get backlash from fans. Industry folks started backing away, too. DJs stopped spinning his tracks. Podcasts stopped inviting him. And collaborations, crickets. That whole I made NAS go viral moment didn't give Jim the boost he wanted. It flipped on him fast. And the backlash, it didn't just stop online. It followed Jim everywhere. Radio hosts started throwing subtle jabs. DJs stopped spinning dips at classics like they used to, and the mood around Jim shifted. What was once respect for a Harlem veteran started turning into side eyes, and he tripped whispers in every room he entered. Even fans that grew up on We Fly High started distancing themselves. Because you can be confident, sure, but once you start dragging icons for attention, the whole vibe shifts. And Jim, he didn't just burn bridges, like he jumped off them with gasoline in hand. And don't forget, this is all happening while Nas is completely silent. That's what makes it even more embarrassing. Nas, in response, didn't throw shade, didn't even flinch. He just kept dropping heat, showing up polished and letting the legacy speak for itself. And the more Jim talked, the smaller he looked in comparison.
Came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though.
You know what I mean?
By now, even casual rap fans started noticing that this wasn't beef. This was desperation. A veteran clinging for relevance by trying to tear down someone who already earned a spot in the Hall of Fame. And when Jim tried to spin it like he was doing for debate or real hip-hop talk, nobody was buying it. The streets knew the energy was off. This wasn't hip-hop barbershop banner. This was a man battling his own reflection, mad at what the culture sees when they compare him to greatness. And what's even more wild, Jim still ain't letting it go. Instead of falling back and regrouping, he's popping up on every platform he can, repeating the same tired takes like they have to hit differently the 10th time around. But the audience already decided this ain't debate, it's a one-man meltdown. Every new clip feels like another cell phone, like when he claimed Nas was only good for the 9s. Bro, Nash just had a whole King's Disease trilogy, got a Grammy for it, and sold out venues without even trying. And here comes Jim, stuck in his own echo chamber, thinking that repeating the same narrative will make it true. At this point, it's giving projection. Jim knows he's never been in those top 5 combos. So instead of accepting his lane, he's out here throwing darts at the legends who are in those lists, hoping one sticks. But it's not sticking. It's backfiring badly. The more he talks, the more people start revisiting Nas's catalog and realizing just how ridiculous Jim sounds. New York State of Mind. The Message, One Mic. Made You Look. Classics that still hit harder than half the stuff dropping today. So now Jim's strategy is collapsing.
Going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though.
Instead of elevating himself, he accidentally gave NAS a fresh wave of flowers from Gen Z to old heads alike. It's ironic. In trying to erase Nas, he only made his legacy louder. Jim really walked around like the entire culture owed him a thank you just for reminding us NAS existed. Like, bro, what? Nas never left. The culture never forgot. But Jim acted like he just dug up a buried treasure and expected applause for it. The clapbacks were instant. One fan commented, "The only reason people even talking about you is because you're out here making dumb comments about NAS. Ain't nobody checking for you unless you say something outrageous for clicks." Another one wrote, "The amount of delusional disrespect from Jim Jones is out of control. I'm sick of it. You don't get stripes for throwing dirt on legends." And they weren't wrong. The math wasn't mathic. NAS has dropped 3 critically acclaimed albums in 5 years, won a Grammy, and sold out venues across the globe. That's work. Meanwhile, Jim's been making more podcast appearances than tracks anyone actually talks about. Facts. Jim thought he was starting a trend, but what he really did was kickstart his own PR funeral. Every time he opened his mouth, the respect he had left in the culture kept slipping away. And the worst part, he did it to himself. Let's rewind to 2024, the Louis Vuitton Spring-Summer Show in Paris. That room was filled with giants. Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rihanna, LeBron, power players across music, fashion, and influence. And guess what? Nas was right. They're among them sitting like royalty. Not because of controversy, not because of clickbait, because his legacy speaks for itself. Fashion, fame, and straight fire. Cameras flashing from every angle. Legends in every row. This was the moment. Pharrell was unveiling his first Louis Vuitton men's collection as the new creative director, and the runway was already buzzing with history.
His records?
Yeah.
Name them.
Love Pusha, Nostalgia, Oh, you was a Pusha T fan. He's like, I didn't know he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No, his records. Pusha T, I love your soul, my dog. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like, I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment in my life. I never thought, like, you dig? Like.
But then the beat dropped and the whole vibe shifted. This wasn't just background music. These were clips. For the first time in over a decade, Pusha T and his brother No Malice reunited on the biggest stage in fashion. And what they dropped? Straight missiles. The lyrics sliced through the air like warning shots. And everyone in that crowd felt it. Even Jay-Z was caught vibing, eyes closed, head nodded. But make no mistake, though, this wasn't just a moment. This was a message. It was tense in audio form. A lyrical sneak attack dressed in runway couture. And it wasn't hard to guess who it was. Aimed at, one bar stood out. Chasing a feature out of your element. That wasn't subliminal. That was a direct punch to Jim Jones, who had just aligned himself with Drake after being honorarily added to Dipset on stage in Harlem. The same Drake who got surgically shredded by Pusha in The Story of a Dude On. And let's be honest, still hasn't fully bounced back from that L. So for Jim to team up with Drake like that, yeah, Push noticed. And he chose Paris Fashion Week in front of the world's elite to send his response in surround sound. This wasn't Pusha T clapping back on some dusty SoundCloud drop. This was chess, real strategy. Pusha turned Paris Fashion Week into a live fire ambush and the entire industry felt it. That's how far ahead he's thinking. While others are yelling into microphones, they're orchestrating revenge on runways. Meanwhile, Jim, he took the messy route. He ran his mouth on Breakfast Club Rap Caviar, Drink Champs, dragging Pusha's name through every podcast possible. Loud and reckless. He even had the nerve to say Pusha T ain't even top 50. Like, what? That comment alone had hip-hop heads spinning in disbelief. But Push didn't stoop down. He didn't enter the podcast circus or chase the viral moment. Instead, he pulled up with billionaires, goats, luxury brands, and fashion royalty in the front row of his clapback.
Like you, if you was really that dude and that rapper and things
Wayne
like that,
wanted to
it's
be
like,
like Pusha.
shit.
He was influenced by Pusha.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
That's why Pusha did the Mr. Me Too record.
Okay, cool. You a very strong Pusha T fan. Yeah. But what else has he bring to the game? Did he make people want to dress like him? Did he have some slang that everybody was talking?
That's what calculated power looks like. Subtle, sharp, and undeniable. And don't ignore the symbolism. This wasn't just a track. It was desert. It was a statement. The setting mattered. Pharrell produced the beat. The same Pharrell who helped build Clipse's entire sound from the ground up. A man who's not only tied to Virginia like Push, but also sits at the top of fashion's elite inner circle. The track they debuted, Chains and Whips, reportedly crafted inside Louis Vuitton's Paris headquarters, overlooking the Seine River. And Pharrell himself told the New York Times that he pointed out that exact window and said, "This was made in this room. We just started walking around looking out and seeing all this. I mean, we beat the system, bro." While Pusha was playing high-level chess in Paris, NAS was back in Queens building an empire. And not just musically, literally. While Jim was busy chasing headlines on gossip blogs, NAS was out here making generational wealth moves with the launch of Resorts World Queens, a massive 350,000-foot casino, an entertainment complex backed by a $5 billion vision. That's not just a flex. That's infrastructure. That's equity. That's a legacy for an entire borough. This ain't your average rapper brand. Collab NAS is putting on for Queens in a way that's going to shift the economic future of the area. He's not just collecting plaques. He's buying the land under the stadium. Meanwhile, gyms. Somewhere bragging about summer jam slots like it's still 2008. Big difference. And what's wild, Nas didn't have to spit a single bar. He didn't drop a disc. Didn't even raise his voice. He just dropped receipts, and they hit way harder than anything Jim could ever record. Fans clocked it immediately under NASA's announcement post. The comments were vicious. One wrote, "Meanwhile, someone else can't stop yapping about going viral. NAS out here making boss moves." Another said, when you're truly rich, respected, and relevant, you don't need to clap back. Your life does the talking. And Jim, let's just say karma had front row seats. Summer Jam 2024. The big moment he'd been chasing all year. The silence at Summer Jam hit harder than any diss track ever could. Jim stepped out thinking he was about to own the stage, reclaim his moment, prove the haters wrong. But the crowd, ice cold, no cheers, no hype, just an awkward stillness that exposed everything. He tried to get the energy up, but the vibe wasn't there. The audience had already checked out. What was supposed to be his redemption arc turned into a public reminder that the culture had moved on, and people weren't subtle about it either. Videos of the dead crowd went viral in hours with captions like this: the same guy who said NAS ain't relevant, and we watching a legacy unravel in real time. In 20:10/2019, it was brutal. Meanwhile, NAS and Push didn't even have to acknowledge it. Their silence is deafening. Because when you're secure in your place, you don't need to clap back. You just let the timeline cook the narrative for you. And that's exactly what happened. The industry started shifting too. Tastemakers, journalists, even former collaborators began pulling back. People who once stood next to Jim started hitting mute. Nobody wanted to get dragged down in a spiral. It wasn't just about disrespecting legends. It was about exposing the insecurity behind the mic. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Funkmaster Flex, one of the last industry OGs still publicly riding with Jim, cut his set short on air, no warning. Just wrapped it up and moved on. And the look on Jim's face, you could see it hit him in real time. That pain wasn't just disappointment. It was a realization. This was supposed to be his moment. All that buildup, all that barking, all that clout chasing. And for what? The drama was loud, but the music was silent. No new classics, no replay value, just noise. Jim didn't bring hits. He brought heat with no fire. And the culture saw right through it. But even after all that, Jim wasn't ready to shut up. He had one more disc in the chamber. And this one got personal. But while Jim's still lashing out, Pusha T was quietly loading the clip. Literally, after the Louis Vuitton takeover. Push didn't say much in public. He didn't need to. But behind the scenes, rumors were spreading fast. Sources close to Clipse said their upcoming reunion album is packing surgical-grade diesels aimed directly at Jim. That Paris runway track, that was just a prologue. The rest, it's darker, way darker. Insiders are calling it Push's Coke Bear moment. Fully stepping into the villain role with no mercy, no filters, no peace offerings. And if Jim keeps poking, it's about to be lyrical execution. Yep, you read that right. Jim really tried to flip the same chains and whips beat that Pusha debuted in Paris Fashion Week and drop a freestyle like it was going to shake the game. Instead, it came off like a weak echo. But that wasn't even the worst part. Jim crossed a major line when he dragged No Malice into it. And that's where things took a whole new turn. See, Husha can take shots. He's a battle, harder than Vet. But No Malice, that man left the rap game to find peace, pursue his faith, and change his entire path. He's been moving with grace and staying out the mess, bringing him into the beef. That wasn't just a disc. It was straight disrespect. It felt desperate, like Jim knew he was losing and decided to pull everyone else in the mud with him. Now, Push hasn't said a word publicly yet. But if there's one thing we know about Push A, it's that he doesn't clap back quickly, that he claps back precisely, strategically. And when he finally fires, it's lethal. And then Jim, he made his biggest mistake yet. In an on-camera interview, he took one last swing, dissing Clipse's new single, Chains and whips. Follow-up ACE trumpets. Right there on tape. Bold, yes. Smart? Absolutely not. Jim had the nerve to sit there and say he never listened to Clipse. Like that was some kind of flex. But the fake chill in his tone, it cracked. The insecurity was oozing through every word because deep down Jim knows they were talking about him. And he knows they bodied him without even saying his name. And this is where the whole vibe flips. It's no longer just Pusha and Nas sending subliminal. The culture itself is turning the lights off on Jim. The blogs are roasting him. Fan pages that used to post-dipe it. Throwbacks Daily are now saying, yo, just stop already. This wasn't rap beef. This was a lesson. Jim Jones walked into the ring thinking he was ready for lyrical war with Nas and Pusha, two of the sharpest pens in the game, and ended up getting destroyed by silence, strategy, and power moves he couldn't touch. Now Jim ain't trending. He's not on the playlist, no shows lined up, no radio spins. He's moving like a ghost in a game he once helped shape. And the coldest twist of all, the next Clipse album hasn't even dropped yet. That might be the real funeral. Because if the Paris preview was just a warning shot, what's coming next could end it permanently. So, if you thought, this drama is messy now, just wait. The final chapter's loading. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and check out what's in our hood next, cause this saga ain't over. And the next hit might bury more than just bars.